The massive hall stretched high above the gathered delegates. Crystal pillars reflected light from 1,000 worlds, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Director Velmora stood at the center podium, her silver skin gleaming under the lights. She was Thessian, one of the oldest species in the Galactic Council. Her people had seen empires rise and fall across 12,000 years. Today's meeting was routine. She reviewed security reports from the outer sectors, trade agreements between member worlds, and the usual diplomatic disputes. Then she reached the last item on her agenda. Sector 7 Terra, the restricted zone. The barrier remains stable, she announced to the assembly. All 6 stations report normal operations. The humans have made no breach attempts in the past 30 days. A few delegates nodded with satisfaction. Others barely paid attention. The human problem was old news. 300 years old, to be exact. Most council members had forgotten why the quarantine even started. It was just something that had always been there, like the rotation of stars. But Velmora remembered the reports. Her great-grandmother had been alive when the first council survey ship approached Earth. The humans had fired weapons at it. Primitive nuclear missiles that couldn't even scratch the ship's shields, but the intent was clear. They were violent, territorial, dangerous. The council had debated for months. Some wanted to destroy humanity before they could develop space travel. Others argued for observation. In the end, they chose containment. A barrier was built around the entire solar system, powered by massive stations positioned at strategic points. Energy fields that would stop any ship from leaving or entering. Earth became a cage. 20,000 light-years away, Captain J1 floated through the corridors of Sol Orbital Station. The station hung above Earth like a steel flower, its petals spreading wide to catch solar energy. Through the observation windows, he could see his home planet turning slowly below. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds, beautiful and trapped. J1 had lived his entire life inside the barrier. So had his parents. And their parents. 3 generations born in captivity. He commanded the United Earth Space Command, humanity's only defense force. Defense against what? There was nothing to defend against except the barrier itself. His boots mag-locked to the floor as he entered the engineering section. The gravity was lighter here, and his stomach always felt strange when he transitioned between zones. He found Dr. Haywan exactly where he expected her to be, hunched over a holographic display, fingers dancing through complex equations. Still working on breakthrough? He asked. She didn't look up. Her eyes tracked streams of data that would make most people dizzy. I'm close, J1. Really close this time. He'd heard that before. 15 years she'd been working on this project. 15 years trying to find a way through the barrier. The United Earth government funded her research because it gave people hope. But nobody really believed it would work. The Council's technology was too advanced. The barrier was perfect. Show me, J1 said. Haywan waved her hand and the equations shifted, forming a 3-dimensional model of the barrier. It looked like a soap bubble around their solar system, but J1 knew it was far more complex than that. Energy fields layered upon energy fields, each one calibrated to stop any ship from passing through. Every energy field has a frequency, Haywan explained, like a sound wave. The barrier uses multiple frequencies layered together. It's brilliant engineering, actually. I've been studying it for years, and J1 prompted, and every wave has a resonance point, a frequency where it becomes unstable. Her fingers moved again, highlighting a section of the barrier. If we could generate the exact opposite frequency at the exact right moment, we could create a phase shift. The barrier would still be there, but for a few seconds we could pass through it. J1 studied the math. He wasn't an engineer, but he'd learned enough to understand the basics. How long would the window stay open? Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe less. That's not much time. It's enough. Haywan finally looked at him. Her eyes were red from too many hours staring at screens, but they burned with determination. We need to try, J1. We need to know what's out there. He understood. Every human understood. They'd grown up with stories about the galaxy beyond their cage. Thousands of species. Millions of worlds. Technologies that seemed like magic. And humanity was locked out of all of it, judged and sentenced before they even had a chance to prove themselves. I'll talk to Commander Taemin, J1 said. If anyone's crazy enough to try this, it's him. 3 days later, the UESC Indomitable prepared for departure. The ship was humanity's pride, built over 10 years using every advance in technology they'd managed to develop. It wasn't pretty like the old science fiction movies. It was practical, angular, a warship designed by people who'd never fought a war but knew one might come. Commander Taimin walked through the ship, inspecting every system personally. His crew moved with practiced efficiency around him. They were young, most of them, born in the cage just like him. They'd volunteered for this mission knowing it might kill them. The barrier had destroyed 17 ships over the past 3 centuries, crushed them like insects against an invisible wall. But this time was different. This time they had Haywan's calculations. Jaewon arrived on the bridge just before departure. He'd insisted on coming along, despite protests from the government. If this worked, if they actually broke through, he wanted to be there to see it. He needed to see it. All systems green. Taemin reported from the captain's chair. Antimatter reactor at full power. Resonance drive charging. The resonance drive was Haywan's invention. It could generate precisely controlled energy frequencies. On paper, it should be able to create the phase shift they needed. On paper, a lot of things worked that failed in reality. The Indomitable detached from the orbital dock and began accelerating toward the barrier's edge. It would take 6 hours to reach the coordinates Haywan had calculated. 6 hours to prepare, 6 hours to doubt. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations tracked the Indomitable's progress. Automated systems noted the energy signatures coming from the human ship. They were unusual but not alarming. Humans tried something different every few years. The barrier always held. A junior technician on monitoring station Theta 7 flagged the readings anyway. Something felt wrong about this attempt. The energy patterns were too precise, too focused. He sent a report to his supervisor, who glanced at it and dismissed it. Humans couldn't possibly understand Council technology well enough to threaten the barrier. The report was forwarded to Velmora's office as part of the daily security briefing. She would read it eventually, probably tomorrow. There was no rush. The barrier had held for 300 years. It would hold for 300 more. On the Indomitable's bridge, Haywan watched her instruments with growing excitement. The resonance drive was performing perfectly. The frequencies were aligning exactly as her calculations predicted. For the first time in 15 years, she allowed herself to hope. Approaching coordinates, Taemin announced. 2 minutes to barrier contact. Jaewon gripped the armrests of his chair. His heart pounded in his chest. In 2 minutes, they would know. In 2 minutes, humanity would either remain caged or take its first step toward freedom. The Indomitable flew toward the invisible wall that had imprisoned an entire species. Its resonance drive hummed with power, ready to sing a song that might shatter chains 3 centuries old. Behind it, Earth held its breath. Ahead, the galaxy waited, unaware that everything was about to change. The countdown began. The numbers on the display counted down. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Commander Taemin's hands moved across the controls, adjusting the ship's trajectory by fractions of a degree. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake in the Indomitable would smash into the barrier like all the ships before it. Resonance drive at maximum output, Haywan called out from her station. Sweat ran down her face despite the cool air in the bridge. Frequency lock achieved. We're matching the barrier's harmonic signature. Jaewon watched the view screen. Space looked empty ahead of them. No visible wall. No warning signs, just stars scattered across the black. But he knew the barrier was there. Humanity had run into it enough times to learn exactly where it waited. 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered across the bridge. A sound filled the air like singing metal. Jaewon felt his teeth vibrate. The resonance drive was doing something no human technology had ever done before. It was arguing with the barrier. Matching its frequency. Pushing back for a moment, nothing happened. The barrier held. The Indomitable strained against it. Energy readings spiked across every display. Haywan's hands flew over her controls, making tiny adjustments. A fraction more power here, a slight frequency shift there. Then the barrier opened. It wasn't dramatic. No explosion, no flash of light. The energy field simply stopped existing in one small spot. A hole punched through the soap bubble. Just big enough for a ship to pass. Go! Haywan screamed. Go now! Taemin slammed the engines to full power. The Indomitable surged forward. 37 seconds. That's how long Haywan's calculations said the gap would last. The ship crossed the barrier's boundary in 22 seconds. Behind them, the gap sealed shut. like water closing over a stone. For several heartbeats, nobody spoke. The crew stared at their instruments, checked and double-checked the readings. J1 stood up from his chair and walked to the view screen. The stars looked the same, space looked the same, but everything was different. "We're through," Taman said quietly, then louder, "We're through!"
We actually did it.
The bridge erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other. Some cried. Hay1 slumped in her chair, laughing and sobbing at the same time. 15 years of work, 15 years of failure and mockery and doubt, and she'd been right all along. J1 felt something break inside his chest. A weight he'd carried his entire life suddenly lifted. He was outside the cage. For the first time in 300 years, a human ship flew free in open space. He wanted to scream. He wanted to cry. He wanted to tell Earth, tell everyone, tell the whole galaxy that humanity was no longer imprisoned. But the celebration died quickly. Warning alarms began blaring across the bridge. "Contact!" the sensor officer shouted. Multiple ships approaching fast. 4 signatures, heavy class. Range 2 million kilometers and closing. Taman was back in his chair instantly. Battle stations. All hands to combat positions. Raise shields, the Council had found them. Of course they had. Breaking the barrier must have triggered every alarm in the sector. And now they were coming to investigate. Or to destroy. Across the galaxy in the Council's Emergency Command Center, Admiral Kith of the Draconid Fleet received his orders. The humans had escaped. Impossible but true. His orders were simple: intercept the vessel. Assess their technology. If they posed a threat, eliminate them. Kith was old by Draconid standards. He'd fought in 3 wars and won them all. His species were natural warriors. 2 meters tall, covered in scales with strength that could bend steel. They formed the backbone of the Council's military forces, and they didn't lose to primitives. He took his flagship and 3 heavy cruisers, more than enough to handle 1 human ship. His tactical officer showed him the scans of the Indomitable, small, angular, primitive-looking. Nothing impressive. This would be quick. On the Indomitable, J1 stood behind Taman's chair and watched the approaching ships on the view screen. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Smooth curves, elegant design. Each one was 3 times the size of the Indomitable. This was Council technology. This was what ruled the galaxy. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Answer it," J1 said. The view screen changed. A Draconid face filled the display. Scaled skin, yellow eyes, sharp teeth visible when he spoke. "Human vessel, you have violated Council law. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." J1 stepped forward. "This is Captain J1 of the United Earth Space Command. We claim the right of free passage. We've broken no laws except the one that imprisoned us unjustly." Kith's eyes narrowed. The human spoke with confidence. "No fear, interesting. You have 5 seconds to comply." "Or what?" Taman asked. "You'll destroy us? Then do it, but Earth will know. And they'll break free too. And when they do, the galaxy will learn that the Council murders species for the crime of wanting freedom." Kith's tactical officer spoke quietly in his ear. The human ship's shields were active. Their weapons were powered up. They weren't going to surrender. Good, Kith preferred it that way. "Fire," Kith ordered. Energy beams lanced across space. The Council ships fired together, concentrating their weapons on the single human vessel. It should have been over in seconds. The Indomitable should have been torn apart. The human shields held. Kith sat forward in his chair. The shields held? How? Human technology was supposed to be centuries behind the Council. The briefing said they were primitive. The briefings were wrong. "Return fire," Taman shouted. The Indomitable's railguns spoke. Not energy weapons. Physical projectiles. Tungsten rods the size of a man, accelerated to a fraction of light speed by magnetic coils. 300 years of development. 300 years of humans looking at their cage and asking, how do we break it? How do we fight things more advanced than us? The answer was simple. Use physics, use mass, use speed. The tungsten rounds hit one of the Draconid cruisers. Its shields absorbed the first impact. The second. The third. The fourth punched through and struck armor. The fifth and sixth followed, punching holes through the ship's hull. Atmosphere vented into space. The cruiser's engine sputtered and died. Impossible, Kith roared. One of his ships was crippled. By humans, by primitives. All ships concentrated fire.
Destroy them!
The battle became chaos. Energy beams and railgun rounds crossed space at the speed of thought and light. The Indomitable was smaller but faster. Taman flew the ship like a fighter pilot, dodging and weaving between the larger council vessels. His crew worked like one organism, targeting, firing, adjusting shields. Hei-Wan wasn't a soldier. She was a scientist. But she watched her instruments and called out shield frequencies. They're cycling through standard council frequencies. Predictable. Adjusting our shields to compensate. Another cruiser took damage. Then a third. The council ships were powerful but slow, built for intimidation and overwhelming force. The Indomitable was built by people who knew they'd always be outgunned. It was designed to fight dirty. Kith made a decision he'd never thought he'd make. All ships retreat. Fall back to the rally point. His bridge crew stared at him. Retreat from one primitive vessel? Now! Kith shouted. The Draconid ships turned and jumped away, disappearing into faster-than-light travel. The Indomitable was left alone in empty space. Damaged but intact, victorious. Silence filled the bridge. Then someone started laughing. Then everyone was laughing and crying and shouting. They'd fought the Galactic Council, and they'd won. Jaewon wasn't celebrating. He was thinking about what came next. The Council would send more ships. Better ships. They'd just made themselves the enemy of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Earth was still trapped behind the barrier. And the Indomitable was one ship alone in hostile space. But they'd proven something. The Council wasn't invincible. Their technology could be matched. Their ships could be beaten. And if the Indomitable could do it, the rest of humanity could too. Send a message to Earth, Jaewon ordered. Tight beam transmission encrypted. Tell them everything. The breakthrough worked. The Council exists, and they're going to come for us. What else should I tell them? The communications officer asked. Jaewon looked at the stars through the view screen. Free stars. Open space. Tell them to prepare for war. And tell them to break that barrier. All of it, every station. Bring it down. Sir, that's the only thing protecting Earth right now. No, Jaewon said. That barrier is the only thing holding humanity back. We're not going to hide anymore. We're not going to be prisoners. If the Council wants a fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Halfway across the galaxy, Velmora received the battle reports. She read them 3 times, certain there was an error. One human ship had defeated 4 Council military vessels. Admiral Kith had retreated. She activated the emergency protocols. Within minutes, every Council member was connected via hologram. The assembly hall filled with representatives from 47 species, all demanding answers. How is this possible? Someone shouted. The humans were contained, primitive, harmless. Velmora pulled up the combat data and displayed it for everyone to see. We underestimated them. 300 years locked in that system. 300 years with nothing to do but advance their technology. They didn't have access to Council science, so they developed their own, different approaches, different solutions, and now they're free. One ship, another delegate said. It's just one ship. Send the full fleet. Destroy them before more escape. It's too late, Velmora said quietly. She showed them new sensor data. The barrier is failing. The humans are attacking the stations from inside. 3 are already offline. The assembly erupted in panic. Thousands of human ships would soon be free. An entire species they'd locked away because they seemed dangerous. And now that species had 300 years of anger to work through. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so loud. Delegates shouted over each other. Holographic displays flickered with panic. 300 years of certainty had collapsed in less than an hour. The humans were free. Velmora stood at the central podium trying to restore order. Her voice carried authority, but even she felt the fear creeping through her chest. She'd spent her career managing peaceful trade disputes and border disagreements. This was different. This was a crisis that could reshape the entire galaxy. Silence, she commanded. The chamber slowly quieted. We need information before we can make decisions. I've ordered a full investigation into the quarantine period. We need to understand how they advanced so quickly. The reports came in over the next hours. Teams of analysts reviewed 3 centuries of monitoring data. What they found terrified them. The humans hadn't just survived in isolation. They'd thrived. While Council species shared technology and built their civilization on ancient knowledge passed down for millennia, humans had nothing. They started from scratch. And they were fast. A Vexury analyst presented his findings to the council. His crystalline body refracted light as he spoke, creating rainbow patterns in the air. The humans developed fusion power in 80 years, antimatter containment in 120, faster than light theory in 240. Most species take thousands of years to achieve these breakthroughs. Why? Velmora asked. They had no choice. The barrier was a puzzle they had to solve. So they focused every resource on science and engineering. Their entire civilization became dedicated to understanding the universe. They built universities, research stations, think tanks, generation after generation working on the same problems. Another delegate spoke up. But they were primitive when we found them. Nuclear weapons, chemical rockets. How did they jump so far? Competition, the analyst said. Earth had multiple nations, multiple cultures. They competed with each other, pushed each other to advance faster. By the time they unified, they developed scientific methods that surpassed ours in efficiency. Velmora felt a chill run through her. The council had created the perfect conditions for a dangerous species to become even more dangerous. They'd locked humans in a box with nothing to do except figure out how to escape, and the humans had treated it like a challenge. Aboard the Indomitable, Lieutenant Yuna worked at her station, headphones pressed tight against her ears. She was young, barely 25, but she had a gift for languages and signals. While the rest of the crew celebrated their victory, she'd been scanning council communication frequencies. She found something interesting. Very interesting, Captain, she called out. You need to hear this. Jaewon came to her station. Taemin followed. Haewon looked up from her repairs, curious. Yuna played the intercepted transmission. It was encrypted, but human cryptography had become very advanced during the isolation years. She'd broken the code in 20 minutes. The message was clear. The council was mobilizing a fleet. Not a small one. 200 ships. Their mission, destroy the human threat. How long do we have? Taemin asked. 4 days. Maybe less. They're setting jump coordinates for Earth's solar system. Jaewon felt his stomach drop. 4 days. Earth needed more time. The barrier was coming down, but it wasn't gone yet. 3 stations destroyed, 3 remaining. If the council fleet arrived before the barrier fell completely, humanity would be trapped and outnumbered. We need to buy them time, he said quietly. Everyone on the bridge understood what that meant. 1 ship against 200. It would be suicide. But what choice did they have? Earth needed every hour they could provide. Haewon spoke up. There might be a way. The resonance drive. We used it to breach the barrier, but it can do more. If I can modify it, weaponize it, we could create spatial disruptions. Nothing that would destroy their fleet, but maybe enough to slow them down. How long would you need? Jaewon asked. 2 days. Maybe 3. You have one, Taemin said. We need to intercept them before they reach Earth. In the solar system, General Kite commanded the assault on the remaining barrier stations. He was older than most of the Space Command. Gray-haired and scarred from a reactor accident 15 years ago. He'd fought in the resource wars before Earth unified. He knew how to break things. Station 4 fell first. The humans had learned from Haewon's research. They hit the power cores with precisely calibrated weapons, overloading the barrier generators. The station went dark. 1/6 of the barrier disappeared. Station 5 took longer. The council had built redundancies into the design. Kaite's forces surrounded it, firing from all angles. It took 6 hours, but eventually the station's shields collapsed. The crew escaped in life pods. Kite let them go. They were just technicians following orders. The enemy wasn't them. Station 6 was the last. It was also the most heavily defended. The council had reinforced it after the first stations fell. Automated weapon systems, heavy shields. It would take days to crack through conventional assault. We don't have days, Kite said to his officers. The Indomitable bought us time, but there's a fleet coming. If we're still caged when they arrive, we're dead. His tactical officer had an idea. What if we ram it? Use an automated ship, full speed. Let momentum do the work, Kite considered. It would waste a ship. But they had ships to spare. Lives were precious. Metal wasn't. Do it. They loaded an old cargo hauler with explosives, set its course, and accelerated it to maximum speed. The council's automated defenses fired, but the cargo ship was already gone, racing past the speed where weapons could track it accurately. It struck Station 6 like a hammer. The explosion could be seen from Earth, a brief new star in the sky. When the light faded, Station 6 was debris. The barrier was gone. All of it, completely. Humanity was free. But freedom came with a price. Across Earth's orbital space, thousands of ships prepared for war. Military vessels. Civilian craft retrofitted with weapons. Even old satellites being reprogrammed into mines. Humanity had 4 days, maybe less. They were going to use every second. The Council's armada assembled at the rally point. 200 ships from a dozen different species. War Coordinator Thelnas commanded from her flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Unity's Fist. She was Catharian, a species known for their strategic thinking and cold logic. She reviewed the intelligence reports on humanity. Dangerous, unpredictable, technologically impressive. But still just one system, one planet, maybe 10,000 ships total, most of them civilian vessels. The Armada had fought wars against civilizations spanning dozens of systems. This would be a decisive victory. Her second-in-command disagreed. They defeated Admiral Kith. We shouldn't underestimate them. Kith was unprepared, Thelnas said. We won't be. We'll hit them with overwhelming force, destroy their military capabilities in the first strike. The survivors can be contained again. And if they don't surrender, Thelnas looked at the tactical display. Earth hung in the center, a blue marble in the dark. Around it, the scattered signatures of human ships. So many lives, so many potential futures. But the Council's decision was made. Humanity was too dangerous to leave free. Then we do what's necessary, she said. On the Indomitable, Haywan worked without sleep. Her hands moved across holographic controls, rebuilding the resonance drive's programming. The concept was sound. Every ship created a small distortion in space when it traveled faster than light. If she could amplify that distortion, make it unstable, she could create a field that would interfere with FTL jumps. The Council fleet would have to slow down, drop back into normal space to recalibrate. It might buy Earth a few more hours, maybe even a full day. Done, she finally said, slumping in her chair. Dark circles ringed her eyes. It's not elegant. It might not work at all, but it's the best I can do. Taemin looked at the modifications. He didn't understand half of what she'd done, but he trusted her. She'd gotten them through the barrier. She'd get them through this. Jaewon made his decision. Set course to intercept the Council fleet. We're going to give Earth time. They'll destroy us, someone said quietly. Probably, Jaewon agreed. But we're not doing this to survive. We're doing this so humanity does. Someone has to be the shield. The crew accepted this. No one argued. No one complained. They'd volunteered for this mission knowing it might be one way. They'd broken humanity's chains. Now they'd buy time with their lives. As the Indomitable turned toward its intercept course, Jaewon recorded a message. It was short. Simple. He sent it back to Earth on tight beam transmission. This is Captain Jaewon of the Indomitable. We were your pioneers. Now we'll be your shield. Whatever happens next, remember, we chose this. For Earth, for humanity, for the future we'll never see. Make it worth it. The message reached Earth 12 hours later. General Kite listened to it 3 times. Then he assembled every ship, every weapon, every resource. If the Indomitable was buying them time, he wouldn't waste a single second of it. Across the galaxy, 2 forces prepared for collision. The Council Armada, confident in their numbers and technology. The single human ship, carrying hope and desperation in equal measure. And behind them, Earth, united, armed, and ready to fight for the freedom they'd just won. The countdown to battle began. 4 days became 3. 3 became 2. The galaxy held its breath, not knowing that one small ship was about to change everything. The Indomitable flew through empty space, a small dot of metal and determination racing toward an armada. Taemin checked the countdown timer. 48 hours until intercept. 48 hours to live. The crew worked quietly. Some wrote letters they'd never send. Others slept, storing rest for the battle to come. A few gathered in the common room, sharing stories about Earth, about families, about things they'd never do now. Jaewon sat alone in his quarters, staring at a picture on his wall. His daughter. She was 15 now. He'd been on this mission for 2 weeks, but it felt like years. He wondered if she'd remember him. If Earth would remember any of them. The communication console on his desk beeped. Incoming transmission. Jaewon almost ignored it, but something made him check. The source identifier made him sit up straight. The transmission was from the Council Armada. From War Coordinator Thelnis herself. Human vessel Indomitable. This is War Coordinator Thelnis of the Council Armada. I am authorized to offer parley. Respond within 1 hour. Jaewon stared at the message. Parley? The Council wanted to talk? It could be a trick. A way to get them to lower their guard. But what did they have to lose? They were already racing toward death. He called Taemin and Haiwan to his quarters. They read the message together. It's a trap, Taemin said immediately. They want us close so they can capture us. Maybe, Haiwan said. Or maybe they're actually scared. We beat their ships before. We're flying straight at them now without fear. Maybe they want to understand us before they kill us. Jaewon made his decision. We accept. But on our terms. Neutral ground. 3 of us. We bring data but no weapons. If they want to talk, we'll talk. The response came back quickly. Thelnis agreed. They would meet on her flagship. 3 humans could bring 1 data device. They would be guaranteed safe passage in and out. You believe her? Taemin asked. No, Jaewon said. But I believe we need time. Every hour we spend talking is 1 more hour Earth has to prepare. 20 hours later, a small shuttle detached from the Indomitable. Inside sat Jaewon, Taemin, and Haiwan. The shuttle flew toward the Unity's fist, the massive dreadnought at the center of the Council fleet. Around them, 200 warships floated like predators circling prey. The shuttle docked. The 3 humans stepped into the airlock, wearing simple uniforms with no weapons. The door opened, and they got their first look at the inside of a Council ship. It was enormous. Ceilings stretched 5 meters high, corridors wide enough to drive vehicles through. Everything was smooth and elegant, designed by species that had mastered space travel for thousands of years. It made the Indomitable look like a toy. Guards escorted them through the ship. Not just any guards, draconids, the same species as Admiral Kith. Each one was twice as tall as Jaewon, covered in scales with claws that could tear steel. They looked at the humans with barely contained hatred. The council chamber was even more impressive. A circular room with holographic displays showing real-time data from across the fleet. And at the center on a raised platform stood War Coordinator Thelnis. She was Catharian, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Her face was angular, almost insect-like, but her eyes held intelligence that made Jaewon's skin prickle. She studied them as they entered. 3 small humans, fragile-looking. And yet these creatures had broken a barrier that should have been unbreakable. Captain Jaewon, Thelnis said. Her voice was surprisingly gentle. Thank you for coming. I know this requires courage, or stupidity, Taemin muttered. Thelnis smiled, or at least, her face made an expression that might have been a smile, perhaps both. Please sit, chairs were brought. Human-sized, adjusted for their needs. The 3 sat. Around them, holographic figures appeared. Council delegates from across the fleet. Velmora was there, her silver Thessian face watching carefully. Before we discuss terms, Thelnis began, I want to understand something. Your ship is alone. We have 200. You're flying directly toward us. You must know this is suicide. Why? Jaewon looked at Taemin, then at Haiwan. They'd discussed this on the shuttle. What to say, how much to reveal, but sitting here now surrounded by the power of the galaxy, Jaewon decided to tell the truth. Because Earth needs time, he said simply. You locked us in a cage for 300 years. You judged us before we had a chance to grow. Now we're free and you're coming to destroy us. So we're doing the only thing we can. We're buying time with our lives. Silence filled the chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Velmora's expression was unreadable. You understand you cannot win, Thelnis said. We know. But winning isn't the point. Fighting is the point. You need to understand that humans don't surrender just because the odds are bad. We never have. That's probably why you locked us up in the first place. That, and you fired nuclear weapons at our survey ship, Velmora said coldly. 300 years ago, Haiwan spoke up. We were different then, divided, scared. You showed up in our sky with technology we couldn't understand. What did you expect us to do? Throw a party? We expected you to communicate, to seek understanding. We tried, Jaewon said. You never gave us a chance. You just built a wall and forgot about us. Thelnis raised one of her 4 hands. Enough, this argument is centuries old. I want to understand who you are now. Show me. HFY pulled out the data device they'd brought, a small cube that contained terabytes of information. She activated it, and holographic displays filled the air around them. First, she showed them human history, not the sanitized version, the real thing. Wars, genocides, terrible mistakes, but also moments of cooperation. Peace treaties, species-wide efforts to stop climate change, the formation of the United Earth Government. Then she showed them human achievement. Art galleries, music, literature, mathematical proofs, scientific discoveries, not copied from the Council, all original, all human. We come from a death world, HFY explained. The hologram showed Earth, its climate swings, its natural disasters. Most species evolve on stable planets, warm, safe, predictable. Earth tried to kill us every few thousand years. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions. We survived by adapting, by changing, by never giving up. She showed them more, human cooperation, different cultures working together, nations that had fought wars choosing peace, billions of people from thousands of backgrounds united by a single goal: break free. You see us as dangerous, Taman said, and maybe we are. But we're also capable of incredible compassion, incredible sacrifice. We're survivors, yes. But we're also builders, dreamers. We don't just want to exist. We want to create, to explore, to understand. HFY stood up. He walked to the holographic display and changed it to show the moment the indomitable broke through the barrier. This was the greatest achievement in human history. Not because we escaped, but because we proved to ourselves that nothing is impossible. That cages can be broken, that we control our own destiny. He looked at Thelnis, at Velmora, at all the Council delegates watching. You locked us away because you feared us. I understand that. But you never asked why we're different. You never tried to understand us. You just assumed we'd always be violent primitives. Thelnis was about to respond when an urgent message came through. Her expression changed. She listened to something on her private channel, then looked at the humans with new eyes. The barrier around your solar system is gone, she said quietly. All stations destroyed. We know, HFY said. Your fleet is massing. Thousands of ships. They're waiting just beyond your system's edge. We know that too. They're not attacking, Thelnis said, and there was wonder in her voice. They're just waiting. Why? HFY smiled. Because they're waiting to see what we do here. If we can make peace, they'll honor it. If we can't, then yes, they'll fight. But they're giving us a chance. That's what humans do. We fight when we must. But we prefer to talk, Velmora spoke up. You could have sent your entire fleet at us. Thousands of ships. You might have won through sheer numbers, but instead you sent 3 people to talk. War should be the last option, HFY said, not the first. We learned that the hard way, fighting ourselves for thousands of years. We don't want to repeat those mistakes with you. Thelnis stood. Her forearms moved in a gesture that might have been respect. I came here expecting monsters, barbarians. Instead I find people. Different from us, yes, but people nonetheless. She turned to the assembled delegates. The human fleet is holding position. Not attacking, not threatening, just waiting. This species has demonstrated restraint when we expected aggression. They've shown capability when we assumed primitiveness. They've offered dialogue when we brought weapons. What are you saying? Velmora asked. I'm saying maybe we were wrong. Maybe keeping them caged for 3 centuries was our mistake, not their crime. HFY felt hope flicker in his chest. Real hope. Not the desperate kind that comes from facing death, but the genuine kind that comes from being heard. What happens now? He asked. Thelnis looked at him. Now we vote. The Council will decide humanity's fate. But before we do, I want to ask you something. If we give you freedom, if we accept you into the galactic community, what will you do with it? HFY thought about his daughter, about Earth, about all the humans who'd been born and died in that cage, never knowing what lay beyond the stars. We'll prove you made the right choice, he said. The Galactic Council chamber aboard the Unity's fist hummed with tension. Delegates from 47 species appeared as holograms, their images floating in the air like ghosts. Each one had a vote. Each one would decide humanity's future. HFY, Taman, and HFY sat in chairs at the edge of the room. They weren't allowed to speak during the vote. They could only watch and wait. 3 humans representing an entire species. Thelna stood at the center, Her forearms moved as she spoke, emphasizing her words. We face a decision that will echo through history. The humans have broken free. We cannot recage them without genocide. The only question is, do we accept them as partners or destroy them as threats? A Draconid delegate spoke first. His scales gleamed red under the lights. They attacked our ships. They killed our people. How can we trust them? They defended themselves, Thelnes countered. Admiral Kith fired first. The humans responded with equal force, then let the survivors escape. That shows restraint, not aggression, Velamora added her voice. I've reviewed 3 centuries of observation data. Yes, the humans were violent when we first found them, but look at their progress. They've ended global wars, united their planet, eliminated most diseases. They've grown. In 300 years, someone objected. That's nothing, a blink in galactic time. Yet they've accomplished in 300 years what took most species 3,000, a Vexuri delegate said. His crystalline body pulsed with light. I've studied their scientific papers, their mathematical approaches, their engineering solutions. They think differently than we do. That could be valuable. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for destruction. Better to eliminate a potential threat than risk future war. Others argued for containment. Build a new barrier stronger than before. But slowly a third option gained support. Integration. Give them probationary status, Thelnes proposed. 5 years. They join the council as junior members. Any act of aggression and we exile them. But if they prove peaceful, they gain full membership. And if they prove dangerous, the Draconid delegate demanded, then we deal with them. But we give them a chance first. We judge them on their actions, not our fears. The vote was called. Jawan held his breath. Green lights appeared above delegates who voted yes. Red lights for no. Yellow for abstaining. The lights flickered across the holographic assembly. Green, red, green, green, red. The pattern was too close to call. Finally, the last vote registered. The tally appeared. 26 for acceptance. 19 against. 2 abstentions. Humanity had won. By 7 votes, Thelnes turned to the 3 humans. The Galactic Council grants humanity probationary membership. You will have access to council space, trade networks, and diplomatic channels. In exchange, you will agree to council laws regarding warfare, territorial disputes, and species rights. After 5 years, we will vote again on full membership. Jawan stood. His legs felt weak. His voice cracked when he spoke. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept. Thank you. You won't regret this. We'd better not, the Draconid delegate said darkly. But it was done. Humanity was free. Really free. Not just escaped, but accepted. Jawan added one more thing. We request permission to offer assistance to any council species who need it. Let us prove our worth through action. If there are problems we can help solve, let us try. Velamora considered this. An interesting proposal. You want to earn your place. We want to show you who we really are. Not through words. Through deeds. The council accepted this too. Within days, the first request came in. A mining colony on the edge of council space had a reactor malfunction. Human engineers, used to solving problems with limited resources, fixed it in 3 days. The agricultural world faced crop failure from a new disease. Human biologists trained in fast adaptation developed a treatment. Word spread. The humans were useful. Different, yes. Strange in their methods. But effective. Back on Earth, the news arrived like a bomb of pure joy. The barrier was gone. The council had accepted them. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Cities erupted in celebration. Seoul, New York, Lagos, Mumbai, Shanghai, London. Every street filled with people crying and laughing and singing. General Kitai stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching Earth through the view screen. He'd spent 40 years preparing for a war that would never come. He felt relief, and also sadness. So many people had died in the cage. So many had been born and lived and passed away, never knowing freedom. But their children would know. Their grandchildren would walk on alien worlds. Dr. Haywan received an offer from the Council's Science Directorate. They wanted her to join their research teams, to share her unique perspective on physics and engineering. She was honored. She was also tempted. But in the end, she declined. I need to go home, she told Thelnes during the farewell meeting. Earth needs teachers. We have so much to learn, so much to share. I can do more good there than on your research stations. You could learn from us, Thelna said, and you could learn from me. Maybe I'll come back someday. For now, I want to build schools, train the next generation, make sure humanity doesn't waste this opportunity. She returned to Earth and established the first University of Xenoscience. Students came from every continent to study under her. She taught them not just facts, but philosophy. How to think about problems, how to question assumptions, how to build bridges between different ways of understanding the universe. Commander Taemin received a new assignment. Captain, actually. They promoted him for his role in breaking the barrier. He was given command of Earth's first diplomatic fleet, 50 ships designed for exploration and peaceful contact. His crew was diverse: scientists, linguists, artists, engineers. And his first officer was his younger sister, Ensign Mira. She was brilliant, fresh from the academy, and eager to see the galaxy their ancestors had dreamed about. Their first mission took them to a sector the Council rarely visited. Independent worlds, small colonies, places that needed help more than politics. They delivered supplies, shared technology, made friends. Slowly, humanity built a reputation, not as warriors, as helpers. Lieutenant Yuna, the communications officer who'd intercepted the Council's plans, became humanity's first ambassador to the Thessian Empire. She worked directly with Velmora, helping ease tensions between their species. It wasn't easy. Many Thessians still distrusted humans, but Yuna was patient, diplomatic. She learned their customs, spoke their language, and slowly, walls came down. General Kite oversaw the dismantling of the barrier stations. Their materials were recycled. The fusion cores powered new shipyards. The hull plating became apartment buildings. Nothing was wasted. The prisons that held humanity became the foundation of their expansion. Captain Jae-won stayed on the Indomitable. He could have retired, could have gone home to his daughter. But the ship was his home now. The crew was his family. They spent 5 years exploring, trading, learning. Everywhere they went, they represented humanity. They tried to represent it well. The 5 years passed quickly. Too quickly. Jae-won watched as human colonies spread across a dozen systems. As human scientists published papers that changed Council understanding of physics. As human artists created works that moved species who'd never heard of Earth. But he also watched the problems. Pirates attacking human freighters, disputes over mining rights, a few humans who saw Council species as inferior, a few Council members who still saw humans as primitives. Peace wasn't perfect. It never is, but it was real. The day of the final vote arrived. Once again, the Galactic Council assembled. This time, Captain Jae-won wasn't alone. Ambassadors from Earth stood with him, along with representatives from 6 alien species who'd requested to speak on humanity's behalf. A Vexuri researcher spoke first. The humans saved my colony when our water purification failed. They didn't ask for payment. They didn't demand concessions. They just helped. A Catharian merchant spoke second. Human trade ships are the most reliable in my sector. They honor contracts. They treat my people with respect. I trust them. More voices followed. Not all positive. Some complained about human ships moving too fast, about humans asking too many questions, about humans being loud and strange and uncomfortable to work with. But even the complaints were mild. Normal diplomatic issues, not threats. Finally, Thelnes called the vote on full membership. This time it wasn't close. 41 in favor, 6 against, 0 abstentions. Humanity had passed its test. Velmora made the announcement personally. The Galactic Council recognizes Earth and all human colonies as full members. Welcome to the galactic community. Truly welcome. Jae-won felt tears in his eyes. He thought about the Indomitable's first flight through the barrier. About facing the Draconid fleet. About sitting in this very chamber 5 years ago. Uncertain if humanity would survive the day. They'd come so far. Thank you, he said, for giving us a chance. For judging us on our actions, not your fears. We promise to honor that trust. The Indomitable was retired after the vote. They flew it back to Earth and put it in orbit, exactly where it had launched from years before. It became a museum. Millions visited every year, walking through the corridors where history was made, the bridge where Haiwan broke the barrier, the weapons bay that fought off the Council fleet, the meeting room where 3 humans changed the galaxy's mind. A memorial was built at the exact coordinates where the Indomitable first broke through. It floated in space, a crystal structure visible from light years away. Words were carved into it in every council language and one human language, Korean, to honor Dr. Haewon's breakthrough. The inscription read, "Here the cage was broken. Here the stars welcomed us home. May we prove worthy of the freedom we fought for." Years later, an old woman stood before that memorial. Her name was Haewon. She was 70 now, gray-haired and tired, but her eyes still sparkled with curiosity. She'd come here on a pilgrimage, to remember, to honor those who'd fought. A young student accompanied her, one of thousands she'd taught over the decades. "Professor, do you ever regret it? Breaking through? Starting everything?" Haewon looked at the memorial. At the stars beyond, at the ships passing by, human, Thessian, Draconid, Vexuri, dozens of species traveling together in peace. Not perfect peace, real peace, messy and complicated and beautiful. "No," she said, "never. We were meant to be here, among the stars, among other minds, learning, growing, building something greater than ourselves. What do you think comes next?" Haewon smiled. "That's the best part. I don't know. Nobody does. The future is unwritten. We get to create it together. Humans and aliens. Different minds, different perspectives, all working towards something we can barely imagine. That sounds hard. It will be. But humans are good at hard things. It's what we do best." They stood there together, teacher and student, looking at the memorial to humanity's greatest achievement. Not breaking free. That was just the beginning. The real achievement was what came after. Cooperation, understanding, peace. Somewhere in the galaxy, Captain Jaewon's daughter commanded her own ship now. Exploring unknown sectors, meeting new species, building friendships. Her father had broken humanity's chains. She would help build humanity's future. And across the council space on 1,000 worlds, humans worked alongside aliens. Sometimes they argued, sometimes they agreed. Always they learned. Because that's what the cage had taught them. That problems have solutions, that walls can be broken, that nothing is impossible if you refuse to give up. The galaxy had feared humanity once. Now it welcomed them. Not because humans were perfect, but because they were willing to try, to grow, to become something better. The stars were open. The journey had just begun.